Hello, my name is Purcell, and what I wanted to speak to you about briefly are one of the components that we found with regard to boundaries specifically. Now, this is not a new intervention. Boundaries is something that is talked about. I mean, we have authors, we have catalogs of books dealing with boundaries, but specifically relationship boundaries is where I want to focus on. And there's one huge component that we talk about with regard to our motives in our relationships. Working in the field, what I realize is that 90% of the individuals that sit in front of me are there due to relationship issues. And now we can talk about intimacy relationships, we can talk about familial relationships, we can talk about occupational relationships, but at the same time, whenever I'm engaging with another person, it's a relationship. And the truth of the matter is we define ourselves from our earliest upbringing with our relationships to our parents. Those are very meaningful components to our well-being. However, what are our motives in our relationships? Well, traditionally when I ask that question in a group setting, the word love comes across. And that's a tricky component in and of itself. Let's think about it for a second. What does that mean to you, the word love? I love my son, but yet and still I love a dark chocolate bar. Wait a minute. I'm able to describe two different things using the same word. Now, we're adults, and we can come up with meaningful relationships, but being raised in our society, and now as an adult, that becomes mixed. I love you, and now I expect for you to love me back, but those two things can mean completely different words, different meanings to the different persons. So let's talk about it for a second. What are our motives in our relationships? Well, I like to draw a diagram of what I call my love tree. And my love tree basically has tangible fruit, things that I can pick off of this tree. And as I'm holding this fruit and I'm looking at it, this is going to be something that I need in my loving relationships. For example, I need trust. I need respect. And while those words might linger and basically float into nothingness, a great example would be saying, I trust that I can depend on you to pick me up at work at 5 o'clock, not 7 o'clock, not 9 o'clock, but at 5 o'clock, and that's important to you. I respect you, and that simply means that I'm going to talk to you in a tone and manner that I expect you to talk to me at. Those are just two small examples of respect and trust. And what we find is that in our relationships, we can fill this tree up with all components: honesty, loyalty, support, intimacy, affection, communication. But how many of us have been engaged in relationships where we have not had enough fruit to fill our appetite? And we wonder why we're sick. Because we show up day in and day out in a household or in a relationship where we have to wear the mask that assumes that we're in love or we're happy, and we're not. So why do we show up? Well, fear. Fear of abandonment. Fear of making the other person angry. Guilt. Payback. These are just a few components that actually take the place of love. And here's the language. Listen to this. I die without you. I don't know what I'd do if you never came back. I wouldn't be able to live without you. Listen to the language. There's no love component. Remember, we talked about love being the components of that tree, the fruit from that tree, not that fear language. That begs the question, what are we actually doing day in and day out in our relationships? Ready to Heal focuses on those type of specific relationship components that help propel us in the well-being. Why don't you give us a try at ReadyToHeal.com. Thank you.